What is going on, Internet? Another video coming at you from the Washington Football Report. This is JD. We're going to dive into this just 1 second. I want to give a quick shout out. If you're listening to this, please hit that subscribe button and share it to all your friends so they can like it as well. My goal is to get to 500 followers or subscribers, I should say, before the draft. Also follow me on Twitter. It's WFT Report. And on a website called Cited. It's a pretty fun website where basically it's a debate website. You do polls, you can vote on polls, you can vote on as many polls as you want. You can also make polls, and most of mine are Washington football team related. So today is just going to be a video, kind of go over all the question marks Washington has when it comes to this year and what questions we have to ask. Last year we had a question. The main question that I had was, what do we have in Dwayne Haskins? We need to get that answer. We need to know if he sucks, if he's good, if he's kind of in between. We need to know definitively what we have in him. So that's why I was like, let him play as much as possible. If we suck this year, we suck. It is what it is. And he ended up sucking. He ended up being horrible. He ended up not being able to progress as a player, as a person. All the offseason crap that he did was just for show. So on and so forth. So that was a question that we had answered last year. And I said, we got to know this. We got to know what we have at quarterback going forward. If we need to move on, if we need to get something else. And I think we definitively figured that out. I think Dwayne Haskins is not the guy that we need a quarterback. I don't think anyone needs a quarterback. But he plays for Pittsburgh now. More power to him. No, I hope nothing bad for the guy. But he's just not the character guy that Washington needs when it comes to running the team. So now I have like that I was thinking about that video, and now I was like, what kind of questions do we have this year? So I'm just gonna go through the roster and questions that I have. What questions do we have, and what questions do we think we need to get answered to this season? Okay. First question. We still have a quarterback issue. Not that Ryan Fitzpatrick or I even think Taylor Heinicke. Both of them can play the position. We could probably win games with both of them playing, especially with the addition of Samuel. But what is the long-term solution? What's the next 10 years of quarterback look like? Is Fitzpatrick and Taylor Heinicke competing? And then if Taylor Heinicke wins, is he quarterback and we extend him? Is that the future of Washington? Which, if he's good, I don't mind that. I like Taylor Heinicke. I know Fitzpatrick isn't the next 10 years, but is he the guy this year and he's just a 1 year, hopefully a one-hit wonder? Not like a one-hit wonder. He's had some pretty decent seasons. But like a one-hit wonder for Washington, and then next year we move on. Do we draft a quarterback this year? Do we trade for one? Do we draft one next year? Or we trade for one next year? I just want certainty. Like, what is the outcome? Like, what is the outcome Washington is going to get, and what is the long-term solution here? So that's a question I think we need to get answered by the end of the season. Now, for all we know, Taylor Heinicke goes out there and lights it up, and Washington extends him for 5 more years because he's that good. And he goes out and throws for like 4,000 passing yards and 35 touchdowns and like 10 interceptions. For all we know, we don't know that. We don't know. For all we know, Fitzpatrick beats him in the offseason in training camp, and Fitzpatrick goes out and does the same thing. And then we're still looking next year on a quarterback. So that's the question. That's one question we have to answer when it comes to. I'm just going to tap the screen, make sure it doesn't go away. Okay. That's one question we have to have answered. Another question. What's the deal with Bryce Love? We drafted him in 2019. He tore his ACL in 2018. Now, that's not really fair. He tore it at like the last, like a minute before 2019. So he tore it in December of 2018. We drafted him in April of 2019. He tore his ACL in December of 2018. There we go. I said it right that time. And we drafted him in April of 2019. So it wasn't like, he tore it in like September and we drafted him in April. He's had a couple, like 2 whole seasons at least to recover, quote unquote, and repair. So I'm curious about what he is. Now, I know this is like definitely not anything that's actually means anything. I do know this. Whenever I play Madden, Bryce Love is my McKissick and Gibson are my running backs in Madden. Every time I put him in, he actually does a really good job. He's very elusive and he finds holes. Now that has nothing to do with real life. I understand that completely. I just find it funny that Gibson was a higher rated, and so is McKissic, are way higher rated on the game. But every time I put in Bryce Love, he just always seems to find creases a little bit better. And I know it has nothing to do with real life. It's just a video game. Probably not even anywhere near accurate to how he actually plays. It's totally possible. But I just found that interesting that every time I play Bryce Love, it really seems like it just flows very well. And he has like a knack for finding lanes compared to like Gibson and McKissic in the game only. But I'm curious because Bryce Love, if he's good and we can get anywhere near close to what he was at Stanford, we have a pretty solid running back room. If we had Gibson, Love, and McKissic, that's a solid running back room. I don't think you can get much better than that. So that's a question mark that I want answered. Another question mark I want answered. I don't have any questions about McLaurin. I don't have any questions about Curtis Samuel. I have questions about a couple questions about Harmon. What's it going to be like coming off of the? I think he tore his ACL. What's he going to be like? Is he going to be good? Is he going to be a possession? Has he lost a step? I mean, he was a very good weapon for us under the Dwayne Haskins regime for the few games he played. He was like Dwayne Haskins' favorite weapon, him and Steven Sims. But what is Harmon going to come back as? Because if Harmon comes back at what he was in 2019, I mean, we don't need to draft another receiver. He's our number 2 by far, very easily number 2. What is the deal with Andy Golden? Is he with a better offseason? Can he be a more effective player? That's possible too. Also, Cam Sims. I think we actually have a really good receiving core. I just think everyone had to play out position because they had to play out position because no one there is like legit, except for maybe Harmon. But no one like Cam Sims and Andy Golden. They're not number 2s, so you can't have them being the number 2 option because you can easily take away McLaurin, and if you're like a 3 or a 4 playing a 2, you can take that away pretty easily too, and that's what's hindered our passing offense for the last few years. So I don't think they're actually bad receivers. I think there's actually some pretty good talent there. What I think though is I think they've been playing out of position, and now with Curtis Samuel, they'll be playing more to their position than they have been in the past. So I think that will help our passing game. So those are really the questions that I have is what do we have in those 3 receivers? Are we going to draft anyone else? What's the deal with, I like Isaiah Wright, but Curtis Samuel's way better than Isaiah Wright. And Steven Sims, I think, needs not be on the team anymore. He regressed so badly last year. I think Ron's not going to be happy about that. I don't know, maybe he picks it up with some competition. Maybe that's what the issue was. There wasn't that much competition for the slot position other than Isaiah Wright, so Steven Sims didn't have to really improve much in the offseason. So we'll see. So that's a question mark I have. Another question mark I have is what are we going to do about left tackle? I'm confident in Cornelius Lucas. Let me just get that straight. I'm very confident in his abilities. I think he could do. He did very well last year. I think he could do very well this year, and I think rewarding him with the starting position is something that I'm okay with. So, so I'm okay with him. I'm okay with him playing. No issues whatsoever. The problem is what we do long term, because he's only got another year, and I mean, if we want to extend him longer, if he plays well again, I'm fine with that. But it's just a question mark. We really don't know the answer to that. Also, what's the answer left guard? Right now, it's Wes Schweitzer. I guess what we're going to do is have Shadiq Charles just get better, and he'll play one of those 2 positions, and we figure out the other position in the draft or something. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But those are question marks I have. I don't have a question about Brandon Sheriff. Well, that's a question, I guess. Are they going to sign Brandon Sheriff long term? And then the last question is what are they going to do long term at right tackle? I mean, Morgan Moses has played well last year, and I've retracted a lot. I didn't retract him. I've just basically come around to okay, he's done better, and I'll give him credit for doing better. But Morgan Moses is not going to be the next 10 years at right tackle either. What's the question there? So I'm not going to get too much into that part. Next question I have is what are we doing at tight end after Logan Thomas? So Logan Thomas emerged as a pretty solid passing or receiving weapon last year, and what's the backup? Or is Washington going to go with someone in free agency that just haven't signed yet? Or are we going to go with Thaddeus Moss, which is he's on our roster. Technically, he was on practice squad last year. We signed him as an undrafted free agent, and we didn't play much because I think he had a broken foot or something last year. So what is the solution there? Are we going to draft one? Or are we going to see what we have in Moss first? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. So that's another question we have to get answered. So that's another question we definitely have to get answered. Going to the defense. I have no questions about the defensive line. I guess the only question I have right now is what we doing with Jonathan Allen. We're going to sign him long term. It sounds like Washington wants to sign him long term. I want to make it clear, I don't have an issue signing Jonathan Allen long term. Okay? The issue I have is I don't know if we're going to have the money to sign all of our defensive linemen long term. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, Jonathan Allen's going to cost a good amount of money. Okay? A good amount of money. He's going to cost a lot of money, and so is Chase Young. So is Montez Sweat. So is Daron Payne. All four of those guys are going to cost a decent amount of money. Okay? Now, and they're going to cost more than $10 million a year, and we're not going to be able to afford that. And in the same, in the throes of that, we got in the next year, we got to sign McLaurin, and we also have to sign and get a quarterback. I just don't know how we're going to be able to keep that entire. If we can keep that entire core, great. I'm fine. I'm happy with that. I'm content with having our defensive line, those four guys, plus Matt Ioannidis for the next 5-10 years. I'm cool with that because our defense will be good, and we just have to get competent guys on the back end, which we improved in the back end very well this offseason so far. But the problem I have is I don't think we're going to have the money to do that. We're not going to be able to have the money to pay everyone. And to me, personally, we already have a replacement for Jonathan Allen on the roster, Matt Ioannidis. He was injured last year, so he didn't play. But we have someone on the roster that can play in place of him until we draft or find another replacement that's cheaper. Jonathan Allen's going to cost a lot of money. Right now, this year, it costs $10 million. My suggestion was to trade him, get some draft picks, maybe get a second, and you can draft his replacement this year. His replacement will be significantly cheaper than what he is this year and going forward from this year. And I get it. I don't want to trade Jonathan Allen. It's not that I want to trade him. It's that we're going to be stuck we're going to pay. Here's the order in which people get paid. Jonathan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Daron Payne, Montez Sweat, Chase Young. Okay? Chase Young's at the end of that. And he's our best defensive player. He's our best player, period. Him and McLaurin are our two best players. He is at the end of that line, and there's not going to be money left over if we sign all four of those guys first. Maybe somehow the cap goes up and there's infinite more money to spend. That's definitely possible. I mean, that is a possibility. And if that's the case, yeah, sign them all. Keep them all on the team. Keep the core together, whatever. But I just don't see that. You're never able to do that in the NFL. Sign that many guys long term and keep that good. I really wish the rules changed. I think if you draft someone and develop them, you should be allowed to pay them whatever you want to keep them. That's my personal opinion, but I know a lot of teams will never do that. A lot of teams won't go for that because they want the salary cap for a reason. But regardless of that, make sure the screen doesn't time out on me, okay? So regardless of that, that's a big question mark I have. How are we going to pay all those guys? Like I said, maybe the salary cap goes up, and if it does, fantastic. And then we have because the salary cap increases, we have the money to pay everyone and keep everyone on the squad. That's perfectly fine if that's the case. I don't know if that'll be the case, but that is the case. Moving on, question marks, linebacker. I'm confident in Cole Holcomb. He's one linebacker that I'm confident in. Okay, I'm pretty confident in Cole Holcomb. I'm not confident in John Bostic. No one else at linebacker I'm really confident in. So Washington has to draft at least one. If we could sign one too, we could still sign somebody. We have to draft at least one linebacker. I think we might have to actually draft two. I think first round we either go for Zaven Collins or Jeremiah what the kid from Notre Dame, linebacker from Notre Dame. I can never pronounce his name. But both of them are solid. They're very good players. There's also the kid from Penn State. If he falls, I don't think he will. But those three are like the top three linebackers in the draft. We have to get one of them. That's the best thing I can say. We have to get one of them. We get one of them, I think we're okay. Because first round, I'll get to the draft here in a little bit. But that's the question we're going to have is what we're going to do. What's going to happen at linebacker? That is the weakest part of our defense right now, is linebacking core. For a long time, Washington had a very good linebacking core. They had a horrible secondary and not a bad defensive line. Now we have good defensive line, pretty decent secondary, and bad linebackers. So that's the one thing we have to make sure we get this offseason, especially in the draft. I don't think anything else need to go over. What we're going to do at free safety, I guess, is the other thing I'm going to go over. We have Cameron Curl. What are we going to do about the other linebacking job? Jeremy Reeves stepped in and played pretty well last year, but it doesn't. As of right now, it looks like that's what they're going to go with, but they could also draft somebody. They haven't signed anyone free agency to play that other spot, so maybe they're confident in DeShazier Everett and Jeremy Reeves playing that spot. They haven't gotten Trey Boston. They haven't got anything like that, so maybe that question's already been answered, and we just don't know. We just haven't been told that. But if they don't go after anyone, then that's proven. And also, Landon Collins is out there on our team, which I don't like. Not that I don't like Landon Collins, but he's coming off an Achilles. He's not going to get faster, and he didn't do exactly very well tackling. Now, a lot of people say they want to convert him to linebacker. He's too freaking small for that. I don't get that. He's too small to play linebacker. It doesn't make sense to me that people want him to play linebacker. You can't go from I don't think you can go from corner or safety to linebacker. You're not going to put on weight and get faster. Okay, you got to bulk up to play linebacker because you got to take on big blocks. You're not going to put on weight, get faster. Unless you're going to go like 4-2 and have him play like some kind of rover safety that is basically a monster. I don't know. They're not going to do that. It's the NFL. You don't do that in the NFL. It's possible. It's definitely possible. Washington can do just a lot of things, and Jack Del Rio is a good defensive coordinator. But I don't see why that we're waiting so long to cut him. We could cut him right now, take that $9 million, and go pay another player, another better player. I don't understand right now. If you cut him right now, everyone's always like, a lot of people keep saying, "Oh, he costs like $18 million." He costs $18 million if you don't cut him before June 1st. If you cut him before June 1st, you save $9 million, because that's the money he owed this year is $9 million guaranteed, $9 million contract, or that he owed $18 million this year. $9 million is guaranteed. If you cut him, you save the other $9 million. And that other $9 million, you already plan on paying $18 million anyway. That other $9 million you can pay towards anyone else. I say go get Carl Joseph. It's not a bad option. There's Trey Boston out there. There's a ton of guys we should have gone after, we didn't. And because we're hanging on to Landon Collins like he's something special, I'm sorry. I don't dislike Landon Collins, don't get me wrong, but last year he just did not play well. He's not good in coverage, and he's usually pretty good at run support. Last year he just could not tackle. Okay? And don't get me started on Troy Apke. I'm not going to get talk about that. So I just don't trust Landon Collins. I don't trust coming off an Achilles rupture, which is what it was. You never come off of that and be faster. He's not going to be, he's not going to be better coming off an Achilles rupture. It's going to be worse. So why not cut him, cut bait, save $9 million, and spend that $9 million to replace him, or maybe $9 million plus $21 million we have left in salary cap, and spend that towards his replacement. I don't understand it, but at the same time, I do trust that Ron knows a little bit of what he's doing. He's gotten some really home runs. He's got some home runs in free agency so far. So, and the last question I have is the draft. It's not really a question. Here's what we're going to do in the draft. I think first round, linebacker. Okay? First round's linebacker. I actually think we'll trade back to about pick 25, or pick in the mid-20s, like 25, 26. We'll trade back with somebody. We'll get Zaven Collins rather than, I'm just going to call him J.O.K. We'll trade back and get J.O.K. rather than Zaven Collins. We'll trade back and get Zaven Collins rather than J.O.K. And then we'll accumulate. I think Ron doesn't like trading up. He likes trading back. We'll get another second or third round pick. Second round, we will draft a offensive lineman. Preferably, my guess is Samuel Cosmi out of Texas. I've seen him fall a couple times in the draft to us in the second round. It's possible. I can't guarantee it, but it's possible. And make sure it doesn't time out. Okay, good. I think we'll get tackle. If he's not available, we may go tight end and get a second weapon. Third round, we will draft whatever we did not get in the second round. So let's say we got a tight end in the second round. We're going to go offensive tackle, and then the second pick in the third round will be another linebacker. So I think in the first our first four picks, regardless of whatever they are, if we trade back, the second or whatever, we're getting a linebacker, a lineman, or two linebackers, a lineman, and a tight end. I think those are the four things we absolutely have to pick up. And then after that, it's kind of a crapshoot. But I think after that, we get so we have what, 7? How many picks do we have? We have 1 first rounder, 1 second, 2 thirds, 1 fourth. There's 5 picks. 1 fifth, no 6th, and 2 seventh. So we have 8 picks. I think in this draft, like I said, we'll draft 2 linebackers in the first 4 picks, a tight end and an offensive tackle. So there's our first 4 picks. Then I think we get a free safety, some kind of receiving weapon. I think we draft Amari Rogers or something in the 5th round. 4th round, I think we go for free safety Richie Grant if he falls out of I think it's University of Central Florida or South Florida, something like that. He wouldn't be a bad option. I don't think they go corner. We just spend money on corner. We have plenty of corners. We can get one in free agency, probably a 1-year contract or something. Like I said, I think we get Rogers or some kind of receiving weapon in the 5th. And then 7th, we add depth. We add depth at the, we'll probably get a running back, and we'll probably get maybe another offensive tackle or guard or something like that, or maybe a defensive lineman. That's possible as well. But I honestly do think Washington will trade back. I think they'll trade back in the first round to later first round, maybe the mid first round, and we'll accumulate either another third or another second. And in doing so, I think Washington will end up signing a defensive tackle. And the reason why I think they're going to do that is because eventually, one of the 3 defensive linemen is going to go. It's going to either be Deron Payne, Matt Ioannidis, or Jonathan Allen. And the way it looks is Matt Ioannidis, when his contract's up, Washington will not be able to re-sign him. So that being said, I think they're going to trade back, and they're probably going to get someone like Darius Stills or something like that with the extra pick they trade down for. So that's just my prediction with the draft. I'm going to do a more thorough prediction, and I have a video. I have a guest appearance coming up. I recommend this channel if you want to go follow them. It's called On the Warpath with Corey Sanchez. And what I would like to do with what's going to happen with that is I usually do this every year. I make an appearance on there. We talk football, and we talk the draft, and I make my predictions on the draft. And I'm usually not 100% accurate, but I'm pretty accurate with what Washington ends up picking. Now this is a little bit different last year and this year, because for years it was Jay Gruden, so Jay Gruden is a little bit more predictable. Other than the fact that the owner would come off his boat and make a pick and then go back on his boat. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So that has been my video. I just have a lot of question marks about Washington and what we're going to do from here. Last year, questions got answered. What is Dwayne Haskins? How good is Antonio Gibson? What's their defense going to look like? Is it look better with a 4-3? Is Ron the guy that we need coaching this team? And I'd say a lot of those questions we got answered too. All those questions got answered. Let me phrase that. So going forward, like I said, I trust Ron. I just want to make sure that want to make sure 100% that it's exactly what we want, and that's what we want to do going forward. So, this is JD. This is Washington Football Report. Hail to the Redskins. And I want to thank you for watching, and see you.